WrestleMania 42 is not that far away, and of course we are in Elimination Chamber week, but given that I, Simon Miller, the bald a-hole that creates wrestling content and does wrestling, I'm actually away right now. I'm secretly recording this the week before. It's not a secret at all. Nobody would care if this did leak, and I thought I should sit down in the middle of February and try and predict the entire WrestleMania 42 card. Why am I doing this? Because I'm an idiot and I love to be ridiculed. Let's go. So we're going to throw one out the window right away because I think we're all confident with it. Well, we are. There's a poster for it. There's a graphic. The Night 2 main event is going to be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Can't even say I'm confident about this. I have been told, and you have been told, and of course the whole Finn Balor CM Punk thing is just biding time until Roman Reigns does return. I think it will be fun. I'm looking forward to this match, which begs the question, what are we doing for the other men's world title? I think it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. I think Cody Rhodes will win the Elimination Chamber this week. But also, do I think we're going to find a way to sneak Jacob Fatu in there? Yes, I do. Now, WWE is going to have to come up with a superb plan to justify this, because you're kind of rinsing on the Elimination Chamber, right? So however Jacob Fatu gets in, every single other person in that chamber match go, can I get in? The way that Jacob has done, I would like a world title match, but they just won't, because I don't know if you know this. Pro wrestling is scripted, but I also think it's just way more fun. Like, we've done Cody and Drew so many times, and I was super happy that Drew won that 3 stages of hell to become the world champion because he needed it. But I think Jacob Fatu being in there adds a little bit of jeopardy, and it adds a bit of secret sauce that maybe, just maybe, Cody Rhodes is not going to win. Now, before we get there, we need to figure out who did attack Jacob Fatu backstage. I think that's really important. I wouldn't actually mind if Jacob Fatu walked away as the world champion. Why the flub not? If you do see him as a future top guy, have him win the big belt, especially because it's going to be the Night 1 main event. Now, I think they're as important as each other. I think all matches on the show have to serve their purpose. But it does allow you to have another world championship match on the Sunday, just in case you don't think this goes very well, or there may be some sort of a backlash, which there won't be, because people love Jacob Fatu. And I just think there could be more interesting stuff for Cody and Drew to do coming out of this, but we have to wait and see. But yes, in terms of that match, I think it's going to be Cody versus Drew versus Jacob Fatu. That rhymes, so it must be true. I'm also doubling down on my Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill idea. I'm probably going to be wrong, and I'm going to be embarrassed. But again, the Elimination Chamber hasn't happened yet, so I can do it. But you can check my predictions out from Monday, when we did do them. I think Rhea Ripley should win the Chamber, given there is no Bianca Belair. And we go straight into the Jade Cargill match. It is big women slapping man meat. It's different. It's new. I think Rhea Ripley can win. I think Rhea going over to SmackDown could be super interesting, just to shake things up without doing a redundant draft. And I'll tie that in with Io Sky versus Julia for the US Championship. I basically saw what happened on SmackDown last week and decided that was more than a tease. It was that this is the direction that we are going to head. And mostly it's because Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill, I think that we've already done. However, I will caveat this because I do think Tiffany Stratton should be on the WrestleMania card, obviously. And my only worry is that WWE would be copy and pasting their booking, but they have done this before. I can see a world where it's Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton, because otherwise I don't know how you get Tiffany Stratton on WrestleMania, and you can't not. So the same way that Jacob Fatu would sneak in, I think Tiffany Stratton will sneak in, and they're both baby faces. So you do run a very specific risk here that you need to be careful with. But I think Rhea Ripley should walk away as the champion. Then you can do Rhea Ripley versus Tiffany Stratton, with Tiffany being like, I didn't get beaten. I just think it feels different, it feels fresh, and given that SmackDown is 3 hours long, you want to do stuff like that. And if Io Sky wins the Women's US Championship, I think that's cool as well, because then maybe all of these people can fall into a bit of a feud, because Rhea and Io will still be friends. I'm predicting they lose those belts as well before WrestleMania to Lash Legend and Nia Jax, should you so wish to know what I believe is going to happen. We may as well talk about those tag team titles as well. I don't want to forget anyone, so I'll look at my notes. So yes, it will be Nia Jax and Lash Legend walking into... This is such crazy... Where do I come up with this? I'm such a weird person. But it will be those two taking on the Kabuki Warriors, taking on the Bellas. I think that makes sense to put them in a multi-person match. Taking on Roxanne and Raquel Rodriguez, who I believe will still be friends by them. Do not know. Taking on Lyra and Bayley. Now, this is not a prediction of results, but I think Lyra and Bayley should win. Hence why they've been in this horrible situation for so long, going, we can never win a match. But I just think that makes a lot of sense, right? No shade to Nikki and Brie Bella, who I'm actually super happy have come back, but they've done nothing apart from that one promo post the Royal Rumble, and it just makes sense. The more people that are in the match, the less that you have to do. Not saying they can't carry a match by themselves, but Brie Bella hasn't had a match in years, so why would you throw her in at the deep end? And I just think it would be quite fun, and also kind of establishes that when it comes to the women's tag team scene, we have done a decent job with it, which is why it's okay if Rhea Ripley and Io Sky go and do something else. I'm also doubling down on my Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair idea. They should fall out in the Elimination Chamber. And Alexa Bliss should go, I wouldn't say go heel per se, but you could go all the way with it. Depends how much time you want to dedicate to it before WrestleMania. But Alexa Bliss should pin Charlotte Flair on a, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that, after Charlotte Flair knocked her out of the Rumble. Then they should fall out. Either of them could be heel and face. I would go Alexa heel, Charlotte face, because I think it's different. And then that's not only your subplot of the Elimination Chamber, but why wouldn't you do that match at WrestleMania? I know I've said this 1,000 times, watch all my content, and I appreciate you, by the way. Thank you very much. But they don't need a championship. And it actually justifies not putting Charlotte Flair in that position or not putting Alexa Bliss in that position because we have equity in the team. I'm just not sure what else they can possibly do post-WrestleMania, so you may as well feud them. So I think if WWE doesn't do that, they've missed a trick. And speaking of trick, worst segue ever, I have Randy Orton versus Aleister Black versus Trick Williams. This one is so hard, and not even I believe this. But because Aleister Black cut that promo and he's like, Randy, I don't like you anymore, and I think we should feud. And because Trick Williams has fallen out with Randy Orton, is it the right spot for Randy Orton? I would argue no. I think Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes needs to happen, which could do coming out of WrestleMania. By the way, I said that after last year's WrestleMania and the year before that. So what the flub do I know? I don't know why I think this. I don't think Randy Orton will lose at WrestleMania. I don't think Trick Williams will lose at WrestleMania. And I think that's the way Aleister Black's kind of been stuck in there. Now, I like Aleister Black. I think he's great. But it's not like he has a bunch of momentum right now. As Randy Orton's a super duper whooper big star, so we can see why WWE would want to pin him. And Trick Williams, I mean, people just chanting, whoop that trick all over the place now. I know it was louder in Memphis for obvious reasons, but it's still more fun because of Trick Williams being on the main roster. So this one was very much, we need to kind of mop up a bunch of people here. They, of course, need to be on the WrestleMania card. So I thought, why not Randy Orton versus Trick Williams versus Aleister Black? With Aleister Black getting the pin, or getting pinned, I should say, and Trick could beat him, or Randy Orton could beat him, but the point is, Randy and Trick's shoulders don't get down for the 1, 2, 3. And Trick Williams is going to be a babyface before you know it anyway, and I think that it's going to be Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer. Go back to the episode of Raw. I don't think that Stephanie Vaquer can make Liv Morgan cry, and Liv Morgan go, well, I did win the Royal Rumble, but Dynamite going to choose you? No. Of course, it will be for the women's title. Right, US title time, which is also so hard. I kind of looked at the people that have been in and around it, and I thought, okay, I'll put them here. I've not put the MFTs on this show. I've not put the White Six on this show, only because in the past, WWE has proven they'll do the SmackDown Tag Team match at another occasion. I don't think the Raw Tag Team belts are going to be on this show, although at the same time, I guess the Usos will be defending it against someone. I don't know who that could be, so throw that in there. The Usos versus someone. You know my thoughts, the Raw Tag Team scene, I don't get it. You know what? It should be the Usos versus the New Day, and we should big it up as two of the best teams ever. I don't think WWE is going to do it, but they should. I would like that. But in terms of the men's US title, I have Carmelo Hayes versus Ilya Dragunov versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Damian Priest versus Matt Cardona. There could be another person in there I'm not thinking of, but you could add one more person there as well. It will be a ladder match. It will be super duper good. Would not mind Carmelo Hayes retaining, given that he's having an awesome 2026. But they are, once again, people that deserve to be on the show, and they have an absolute banger of the match. They'll go out there with chips on their shoulders. We'll have a good time. And also a scary time, because these matches are terrifying. I think Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee Part 2 is also going to happen on this show. The only reason I think the Elimination Chamber match is happening is so Becky can cheat to win and we get a stipulation. So it'll be a stip, a tables match, a leathers match, a TLC match, nothing like that, a street fight, no DQ, whatever the flub you want to call it, just so that we can have a bit of, I don't want to call it levity, because it sucks for them. It's harder than a normal match, but I just think to sort of spice up the WrestleMania card, which usually has about, 7 matches one night and 7 matches the other night. I think I've got this 8 and 7 with the Usos thrown in there too, but it is quite a difficult one to predict this year, because you can kind of tell they've moved the goalposts a little bit. But I do think one match that may actually not be on here, because you could do it at AAA instead for a Triple Mania. I have written it down, OG El Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano 2, Mask versus Mask. But that will just do better in Mexico anyway. So given that I have kind of overbooked both nights of WrestleMania, I don't see why you can't just do that on a AAA show, especially because I think El Grande Americano 2 will unmask Chad Gable, because the OG one is less over than Numero 2, Numero Dos, whatever, in Mexico. I think you just have more fun with it. Now, I would take it on WrestleMania, because I think those two guys have somehow made this into a wonderful thing that I do enjoy. But given that I think it should be 7 and 7, as I somehow lose the ability to speak, I really do think you could do this one on AAA, and I think that's okay, especially because they have been doing great crowds, and El Grande America number 2 is super over in Mexico, so if Chad Gable finally gets to go back to being Chad Gable, you may as well put it in the location where it's going to get the best response. My final two are absolutely nuts. Let me start with the dumb one, which is The Vision taking on LA Knight, taking on Sami Zayn. And this is why maybe potentially the Jey Uso match will not happen. I do have Seth Rollins down here. Now, I know you're going to bring back Seth Rollins for a 6-man tag. It's not his fault. He has to feud with The Vision. You could do a one-on-one match, but again, then you're really struggling to fit it in here. And if he's not going to be 100%, which he may not do, a 6-man tag does protect him, and he still gets to be on WrestleMania. I understand it's a very, very weird match. And I understand it makes sense why we put Sami Zayn on there, who is a SmackDown guy. But as I was, Sami Zayn's got to be on the show. I don't know where else to put him, which is why you could do Sami Zayn versus Jacob for 2, and you could start feuding them together and do something interesting. I'm just going to leave that in the ether there, because I do think LA Knight needs revenge on The Vision, and of course, it's probably going to be Jey Uso, isn't it? I think actually LA Knight, Jey Uso, and Seth Rollins makes more sense, although Jey Uso not really cares about The Vision anymore. Although they did interrupt their guys' promos, I just thought as well, I changed the Usos match. I think actually because I've just look at why do I ever think about this stuff? I think actually it's going to be the Usos taking on 2 people in The Vision, and The Vision will probably win the world championships, which means the other guys, you could do Bronson versus Seth if he's good to go. But then what does LA Knight do? Now I have to tell you about my next match, because it could be LA Knight versus Brock Lesnar, but I've decided it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi versus Gunther, because then somehow Brock can get pinned and you protected him a bit more. Because very sadly, we live in a world where I don't see Oba or Gunther beating him one-on-one, which we should be doing both Obafemi and Gunther. That one's a bit dumb. Although if it's LA Knight versus Brock Lesnar, I don't think LA Knight's going to win either. This is when the card gets super messy for me. It depends when Seth Rollins is going to be back. Is Bron Breakker going to make a super recovery? If Bron Breakker makes a super recovery, then you can do Seth versus Bron. I absolutely think that will be the match. But now I also think it'll probably be probably Logan Paul and Austin Theory winning the belts, which opens up Bronson Reed. Maybe you do a 4-way. I guess you would do Bronson Reed versus LA Knight in that case, which would be fine. I think if WWE actually remembered that Bronson beat Roman Reigns and bigged him up again, that would be a big victory for LA Knight. And then maybe the Vision stuff is done. Wishy-washy to say the best, though. And a lot of that was probably gibberish. But I think you can get variations of that, and I think you understand. This is my predicted card for WrestleMania 42, which even I think ain't that great. Now listen, I always like to know what you think as well, so please do let me know your predicted WrestleMania 42 cards based in reality. Don't say Batman versus Superman. Of course, that would main event night too, but it's not going to happen. Check out my Elimination Chamber predictions that are on the screen right now. Before you like the video, share the video and subscribe. Otherwise, it's patreon.com/Simon316. It is grillermine.com/Simon. It's good Simon to get money off. Simon316 on social media. Under the Mat is my brand new YouTube channel with my Between Two Ferns style interviews. Really enjoyed doing those. TikTok, Cameo, and Pro Wrestling Tees if you'd like to support me there. Enjoy the chamber this week, my friends. Enjoy your week, whatever you do, and let's start getting pumped for WrestleMania. Because once we're through the chamber, the road most definitely starts, even though there could be a few potholes. See you soon.